already, if you have a smartphone or anything like that, please make a point of checking us out on the social networks. Reason for that is hit counts is no longer enough to get things going. A lot of the studios are looking at what your social network status is, and some of it we haven't put a lot of attention into toward the last year. So the more people we get following us, the more goodies we get. And we just found out Universal Studios called us this morning, and they are FedExing, yesterday actually, FedExing items that will be here today that we can hand out tomorrow. So come by the table tomorrow, we'll be having that, but we got tons of stuff. We had twice as much as we had last year, and that's a real plus considering everybody is focusing on E3 right now and San Diego, so getting stuff was kind of a pain. We pretty much start doing it year-round now. Anyway, we are back, third year. Phoenix Comicon. Cannot believe how much this has grown. My wife was just telling me. It was 5 weeks. 2 years ago we came back to Phoenix, and it's we had roughly 5 weeks before the first show. Everything's growing like crazy. If you go to the site right now, it's an absolute mess. Some very kind person, apparently out of China, didn't like what we had to say promoting the PS4, and found the most nasty cyber attack that went through about 900,000 WordPress sites as well as ours, goofed everything up off their permissions. It's still there, but it's in a very basic black and white state. All the links don't work, so we're in the process of reprogramming it, new graphics, new layout, but do check out the site. We are still posting. So, how many of you guys were at the panel last year? Great. And by the way, for those who don't remember, I'm Gareth, Skewed and Reviewed. That's us up there. Been talking at shows for about 16 years now. Hard to believe. I was looking at the calendar and go, boy, was I really that young when I started doing all of that? But so far, holding in there. And we have our second office down here in Phoenix. And so we basically are a website. We have a magazine. We do a Skewedcast, we call it. And we have a syndicated radio show out of Seattle. And do you guys remember last year when I said, now, don't believe it until it's settled, because Lucas said there'll be absolutely no more Star Wars films, and that's it. But however, 20th Century Fox did put upcoming trilogy on their planned date. And I had everybody write me and say, you're an idiot, you're a moron, that's not going to happen, Star Wars is dead. Lucas even confirmed it. We had the right films, we had the wrong studio. We did not know that a few months later he was just going to call literally. We were told this is kind of what happened. He picked up the phone, made a call. Hey, you know, if I should sell, would you guys be interested? Yeah, we might. What are you talking about? Oh, 4.4 billion? What would it include? Well, you get everything. Okay, we'll get right back to you. And apparently it was literally that. It was like a 2-hour conference call to the board saying, Lucas is offering us everything. Now, the moment they sold it, I said to someone, there is no way Disney is paying $4.4 billion for all of this stuff without plans of making new films, because it's like buying Volkswagen and saying, but you can't make bugs anymore. You know, yeah, they got video games, yeah, they've got toys, and they've got animated shows, but so you got 5 and quite possibly 10 movies already in the production stage right now. You got the trilogy, you got 2 standalone films. We're told Boba Fett and Yoda are the leading candidates for that. There's a plan that they're kicking around that once the new films come, a new Star Wars film every year. That means simultaneous production. Some will be Old Republic, some will be individual characters we know, all over the place. Obviously, probably going to be shot in 3D, and here's where it gets really interesting. You know how good old JJ had to kind of sashay over from Star Trek over to Star Wars? He's not getting the new film, per se. We've been told he's been offered all of it. It's kind of like the Star Trek deals. Many of these, as you want to direct, they're yours. Now, that refers to the prequels, not the, excuse me, the sequels. I can't get used to calling them sequels yet. It just seems so odd. But, you know, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the new animated show that was announced. What do you guys think? They had originally said it might be set between episode 6 in the new series. Now it's set between episode 3 and 4, which is really odd because that's where the live-action series is supposed to happen. And here's where it gets really, really crazy. The live-action show you have not seen, they've got over 50 scripts sitting for it right now. $5 million an episode minimum is what they were found to be doing. No studio is going to try that one. Now, There's a show you may have heard of called Game of Thrones. That's approaching that, but do you know how it gets done? They basically signed over everything to HBO. Now here's where it gets interesting. Disney owns ABC. They own cartoon channels and all of that. They would own it all in-house. They would own the network, they own the production, they would own the toys and the merchandising, and they would own the DVDs. So therefore, a little easier risk for them to save $5 million an episode because they control every single revenue stream. We don't know if anything's going to happen on this, but we had a source tell us that they're not done with Lucasfilm. They've got their eyes on Hasbro. Transformers, My Little Pony, G.I. Joe, Battleship, and guess who makes the Star Wars toys now? Hasbro. All in-house, one-stop shopping. Smart business if you can pull it off. So what's the new film going to be about? Well, I can tell you this, they've been scouting locations in Iceland, specifically where Prometheus was filmed, and some surrounding areas. They're looking at, let's talk more about what we don't know rather than what we do know, because it's easier to say what we don't know is basically everything. What we do know is this. They've said the comics, the source material, the books, all of that, that's off the table. This is all new stuff. You got an Academy Award-winning screenwriter, Little Miss Sunshine, Toy Story 3, Mike Lark. Looking over the thing, you go, well, gee, where's his sci-fi chops? Well, now he's done Oblivion. He was involved in the story. He wrote the screenplay for Catching Fire. So at least now you're seeing, okay, there's the genre chops coming out. He's working away on this. Abrams is working away on it. They're going to start filming very soon. Harrison Ford was the big shocker. He'd always said, I'm done with Star Wars. He even came out and said, nothing is set yet, but it looks like it's happening. Carrie Fisher tweeted the other day that Disney sent a trainer to her house. So, doesn't mean she's actually doing anything. So you got to figure out how that's going to work out. Poor lady, she's had some problems, let's put it that way. But, So what's going to happen? Well, let's take it down to the basic thing. It's going to be, 20, 30 years later, maybe Han and Leia are married, maybe they're not. Not necessarily a given that they're married. Maybe Han's the I don't want to be tied down type of guy. Don't know. No. I think the only thing we can safely say is Luke and Leia are not married to each other. And again, hey sis, we got to keep the bloodline going. Sorry. All right, back that up. Sorry. Got to save that for the evening panel. That's pretty blue. But
good attitude.
And I'm simply meaning handshake, kids. That's all we're talking about. Look at it like this. They're struggling to put everything back together. There are remnants of the Empire still in place. You've got a new threat that emerges. So the new threat emerges. Heroes old, new. Rise up, challenge, there you go. There's your basic plot line. Now the question is, who are the bad guys going to be? I wrote an article saying, I don't think it's possible they could ever outdo Darth Vader as a villain. It's become too iconic. And I think, for me, the key is they need to make sure to say, you know what, we're not going to fuss around with Darth Vader as a villain. We are going to make sure that we have a quality, bad guy and go from there. Not try to outdo him, not try to top dog him. So we'll get back to that a little later. Star Wars TV show, Rebels, we talked about, that's coming up. So let's talk about Prometheus. What did you guys think about it? Make sure you check out the Blu-ray. The deleted scenes fill in a lot of details. Not much, but they help. Prometheus 2 is in the planning stages. Ridley Scott has met with a very young English actor 3 different times already, so that's progress. They are definitely moving forward with that. Tentatively titled Paradise. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, you know about Riddick 3? Woo! Thank goodness. Blade Runner 2 is still in a go stage. And Hampton Fincher, who wrote the original, is back. Harrison Ford may or may not be back, but Ridley Scott. So what can I tell you about the female character? Strong and the lead. So that's what it's going to be. You're going to have a probably female Blade Runner in this one. Anyone see the movie Drive Angry 3D, My Bloody Valentine? Yeah. Now how about this one? Justin Lin's busy right now in Manila filming Fast and Furious 7. And kind of made him a little unavailable to do a film project he's been approached to do, and that was the Terminator film. Now, Patrick Lussier, who did Drive Angry 3D and My Bloody Valentine, who also is working with the person who wrote Shutter Island, apparently are taking a stab at the new Terminator film. So we thought, you know, truthfully, this is one of those, kind of like Logan's Run. I've been hearing rumors about this for 12 years. I remember doing a convention in Canada. The film studio was 5 minutes down the road. They had the producer in the thing with our panel saying, we start filming Logan's Run in 3 months with Bryan Singer. Still waiting. And they've gone through about 4 leads and 6 directors since that time. But the other thing is that Arnold the other day, Arnold's a very busy guy. If you've not had a chance to see The Last Stand, it's out on Blu-ray, DVD now. It's not bad, folks. It is a good classic 80s action throwback. And people say, well, he's getting kind of old. Yeah. And he still throws around people like crazy. You know, if you want throwback action with a lot of bloody mayhem, it was one of the good action films that you just don't see made like that anymore, simply because they don't have the new generation of action stars that they had hoped. So that's why Stallone and Schwarzenegger are so in demand. Stallone is still talking about doing another Rambo. He's got Expendables 3 going right now, and he's reached out to Jackie Chan, Wesley Snipes, and possibly Steven Seagal this time out. Here's a twist for you. He offered the directorship of the film to Mel Gibson. And Mel passed on it, unfortunately, because I would have been really curious to see what Mel Gibson would have come up with. Anyway, Arnold has got, obviously, another Conan movie coming. I'm thrilled to death about this. He's got a new movie with twins called Triplets, because apparently Eddie Murphy was the third brother they didn't know about. Campbell knows as well. They want Eddie Murphy, but, you know, that remains to be seen. Arnold has got a prison film coming out with Stallone very soon, where they have to escape this high-tech, futuristic prison. He's got a lot of stuff, even though Last Stand didn't do well here, huge draw overseas. He announced recently, they said, you know, Arnold, what's going on with Terminator? I have not signed for a Terminator film. I've signed for 2. So apparently the rumors about it being a 2-parter are true. And you know, here's the thing. Yeah, okay, he's in his 60s. He's pushing 60-something. You know what? Read the guy's book. He's got a really interesting attitude on life, and I was impressed that he was willing to admit his faults and the things that he'd done wrong. And the thing about it is, can you imagine them doing it without him? You know, in some way, he's got to be involved with it. Just, you saw what happened when they tried to do it without him last time. It just CGI'd it in. It just didn't work. You know, he could take the average material and up it a notch. So, jumping through time, apparently possible alternate realities, characters who might have been dead might be coming back this time. So, you know, Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton. So we'll see how that plays out. One of the problems is, of course, we have 2 hours plus worth of material that we're trying to squeeze into an hour here. And we talked with the guys about doing multiple panels, you know, extending it, and it's always just a space and a time issue. So obviously, if we don't get to stuff, I'm going to try to get time at the end for Q&A, but obviously you can stop me in the hall, come to the table, I'll fill you in any time. Always email us, we'll answer it. So, Superman Man of Steel. How many of you guys are excited about this?
Yeah!
Would you believe the sequel's already in the planning stages? Same with Pacific Rim. They've already told Guillermo to start planning a sequel. Always nice, you know. The only bad thing I have to say about the two of them, my buzz thing, converted 3D. I'm shoot it in 3D or don't do it at all. Don't call it 3D if you shoot it conventionally and run it to the lab. That being said, they are looking good. Another one that I'm always very hesitant to talk about until the cameras roll, but we had an interview with David Duchovny last year for a film he did called Goats. And, you know, he's doing some indie work. David's had to touch the buzzword with David. David, what's going on with Mulder and Scully? And he said, well, number one, he's furious with Fox because he doesn't think they're promoting a franchise. He thinks that X-Files could be as big as Star Wars if it was properly promoted. He said, we're ready to go. Jillian, Chris Carter, and I are all set. We are just waiting at this point for Fox to say go, and we're filming the movie. Now, they did put out the new 10th season in comic form, but they've got a plan on the cards for a film that tentatively is titled Endgame. And the problem is, one of the reasons he was upset, because it was set in December of 2012, when the colonization was supposed to happen. And we're all here. See, they kind of hoped to put the movie out last year, because essentially, and he agreed with me on this, everything they have done through all the years of the show is completely invalidated unless they resolve the big issue. Colonization is coming. They know the date. Do they save us all, or are we all destined to become, black goo? And he said until they address that, so right now he said it's like anything else. The fans want it. The best thing people can do is write Fox. They've got a website, they've got social networks. Tell them, I want more X-Files. And that's the fastest way it'll happen. The problem is they put it out up against the second Batman film. It didn't do very well. Cleaned up overseas. The problem is that would have been a better film to put out in October or November rather than in the middle of the summer. And I'm referring to the last movie. They also realized that perhaps making it standalone and not connected to the mythology probably wasn't the best of ideas. But Harrison Ford, when Lucas retired right now, Indiana Jones 5 is kind of on the back burner. But remember this, when Disney forked over $4.4 billion to Lucas, whom basically kicked it all over to charities, it wasn't just for Star Wars, folks, remember that. And there is another very valuable, very lucrative property that's sitting at the Lucas Archives, and that's the Indiana Jones franchise. So don't think for a minute that once they get done with Star Wars, and let's not also forget one of the most popular rides at Disneyland is the Indiana Jones Adventure. So that's part of the reason why he went with them. Star Tours, they have a very good working relationship, and he looked at it and saying, barring a major catastrophe, you can make the argument that 200 years from now, Disney's still going to be around. It's a good way to make sure that your, legacy is continued. Did I mention to you last year about James Cameron and Avatar 2, 3, and possibly 4? Did I tell you about his deal with Disney? Avatar rides. They're in the process of planning one at the Magic Kingdom. Now, mind you, this was before the deal with Lucas, so I don't know if that's going to supersede it at all, but they are planning a series of Avatar-themed attractions at the park, and the first one is supposed to be at the Wild Animal Park. So I mention that because they are going into pre-production on Avatar 2 and 3. There is a water element to it. They're going down in a deep-sea submersible. You know how he went down and set the record. He's got a rig with state-of-the-art 3D cameras. Now, here's what really scares me. You know how he took this new 3D technology and made this quantum leap when he filmed Avatar, which caused all of the theaters to upgrade to it? He said, and then you have like The Hobbit and how they filmed at the higher rate of speed for the higher resolution. He says he's got a new trick to take it even further for the Avatar sequels. So, I'm waiting for that one now. If they do a fourth one, that will likely be a prequel about how the whole tension between the Earth settlers and the Na'vi got started, but 2 and 3 are being filmed back to back. And ironically, Sigourney Weaver said she may be involved, and I'm thinking now, how is this going to happen? But, cloning, it's always the magic hour. Cloning and flashbacks. Now, speaking of cloning, Jurassic Park 4. Woo! Yeah. Now here's the thing, and I'm not trying to sound mean on this, I'm just being ironic here, okay? So they announced a director for the thing. The guy has done one movie, a $200,000 art film called Safety Not Guaranteed. You can stream it on Netflix. No stars, no big special effects, nothing. $200,000 movie. And apparently he was on the short list to direct the Star Wars films. Now I'm thinking, I know a little bit about how Hollywood works. They have to deal with them on a regular basis. Have you ever heard of one guy doing one movie, seriously, not being difficult here? I've directed more stuff than he has. Yes, it's been independent, and they're handing over a $175 million movie with stars, with animatronics, with high-end special effects, say, film in 3D, have it out ready by next summer. Does that sound like